Imagine for a moment that every thought you've ever had, every decision you've made or haven't made, every emotion you've felt or repressed exists simultaneously in a boundless ocean of quantum possibilities, and that you right now, in this very moment, have access to all the versions of yourself that have lived in the past, are living in the future, and even those versions that were never born in this particular reality. Because time, as we understand it, is nothing more than a construct of our limited perception, an illusion created by a sequence of neural impulses in our brain that tries to organize the chaos of infinite possibilities into something understandable, something linear, something safe. When you close your eyes and immerse yourself in deep meditation, when your brainwaves slow down from the beta state of everyday consciousness to alpha, theta, and then delta, you literally transcend space-time. You enter a quantum field where there is no yesterday, no tomorrow. There's only here and now, but this now is so vast, so all-encompassing, that it contains all possible nows that have ever existed or can exist. And it is in this state that you cease to be a victim of your past. Cease to be limited by your body, your personality, your history. Your body stores every memory not just as an electrochemical signal in neurons, but as living energy in every cell, in every atom. And when you relive old emotions, old pains, old images over and over again, you literally evoke the past into the present. You create a quantum collapse that forces the possibility to become a reality. And that reality always looks like an extension of that. What was, because your brain does not know the difference between what is happening in the outside world and what is happening in your imagination, between memory and experience, between fantasy and reality. Imagine a DNA molecule in the nucleus of one of your cells. This long helix contains not only genetic information passed down from your ancestors, but also quantum information about all possible versions of you. And when you change your emotional state, when you get out of survival mode and enter the state of creation, you literally change the expression of your genes. You turn on the genes, which are responsible for health, youth, creativity, and turn off those related to diseases, aging, degradation. And this is not a metaphor. It is a scientific reality that we can measure, see on MRI, confirm with blood tests. But here's the paradox. As long as you identify with your body, with your thoughts, with your emotions, you stay in time, you remain part of a causal chain where the past determines the present and the present determines the future. And that future always looks like a repetition of the past because you create from the same energy, from the same state of consciousness, from the same frequency of vibrations. And the quantum field just reflects back what you're radiating like a perfect mirror. That doesn't judge, doesn't evaluate, just shows you who you are energetically. There's a moment when you meditate so deeply that your body falls asleep, but your consciousness remains alert. And in this state, you feel worthless and everything at the same time. You dissolve into the space around you. Your boundaries disappear, and suddenly you realize that you have always been bigger than your body, that your consciousness was not born when your body was born, and won't die when it dies, that you're part of something so vast, so ancient, so wise that your limited mind can't comprehend it, but your heart knows, your cells remember, your DNA resonates with that truth. In this quantum field, in this boundless ocean of possibilities, there's a version of you that is already healthy, that is already rich, that is already living the life of your dreams. And this version is not somewhere far away in the future. It exists right now in a parallel reality. And the only thing that separates you from it is the frequency of your vibrations, the energy that you radiate, the state of your consciousness. And when you raise your frequency through meditation, through gratitude, through love for yourself and the world, you literally move into this reality. You become it. You collapse this quantum possibility into your material experience. Your brain has an amazing capacity for neuroplasticity. It can change at any age. It can create new neural connections, new pathways, new networks, and every time you think a new thought, feel a new emotion, perform a new action, you literally rebuild your brain. You create a new self on a neurological level. And if you do it long enough, consistently enough, your brain becomes physical evidence of your new future. It exists in a state that has not yet been realized in the outside world, but is already real inside you. The problem is that most people live in a state of stress, in survival mode, where their body controls the mind, where adrenaline and cortisol flood the system, preparing them for fight or flight. And in this state, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for creativity, planning, conscious choice, turns off, and control goes to the limbic system, an ancient part of the brain that only knows the past, which reacts based on previous experiences, which cannot imagine anything new, nothing else. And the person gets stuck in a loop of repetition where each day looks like the previous one. Every reaction is predictable. Every thought is an echo of an old program. But when you sit down in silence, when you close your eyes and begin to observe your thoughts without judgment, without identifying with them, when you witness your inner world instead of being absorbed by it, a miracle happens. Your brain goes into another state. Blood returns to the prefrontal cortex. You get out of survival mode and enter creation mode. And in this state, you have access to the quantum field, to all the possibilities that exist outside of your old programs, outside of your personal history. Quantum physics shows us that a particle can be in several places at the same time until we observe it, that the act of observing changes the behavior of the particle, that the observer and the observed are not separate, but interconnected. And if this is true for subatomic particles, then why can't this be true for you, for your life, for your reality? You are both an observer and an observer. You are both a creator and a creature. And every moment you choose which version of reality to collapse into your experience through the focus of your attention, through the quality of your thoughts, through the frequency of your emotions. Emotions are chemical messengers that tell your body how to feel. And when you experience the same emotions for years, your body becomes a living embodiment of those emotions. It gets used to them. It becomes dependent on them. And even when you rationally want to change, your body resists, because change means the unknown, and the unknown is perceived as a threat, and the body does everything to bring you back to a familiar state, to old emotions, to old thoughts, to old habits, even if they destroy you, because at least they are familiar, predictable, safe in their danger. There's a point in the transformation process where you let go of the old self, but the new one has not yet appeared. And this is the hardest moment because you are in no man's land, in quantum uncertainty, where nothing is guaranteed, where you have to trust the unseen, believe in the impossible, hold on to a vision of the future that does not yet have any physical evidence. And this is where most people give up, because the discomfort of the unknown is stronger than the desire to change. The fear of the new is greater than the pain of the old, and they return to the familiar, even if the familiar kills them. But those who go through this dark night of the soul, who continue to meditate, who continue to keep the focus on a new future, who continue to radiate the energy of gratitude for something that has not yet happened, who live in a state of heightened emotion even before external circumstances have changed, It is these people who experience real miracles because they send into the quantum field such a powerful, such a coherent, such a clear energy signature that the universe can't help but respond, can't help but bring them synchronicity. Chance encounters, unexpected possibilities that look like magic, but are actually the exact science of creating reality. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field that is 5,000 times more powerful than the field of your brain, and this field extends several meters around you, interacting with the fields of other people, with the field of the earth, with the cosmic field. And when your heart is in a state of coherence, when the rhythm of the heartbeat becomes harmonious, balanced, you send a signal to the world of order, of bow ties of love. And the world reflects that back to you because the energy always attracts similar energy. The frequency resonates with a similar frequency, and you literally become a magnet for that experience that fits your inner state. Have you ever wondered why some people always seem happy, regardless of external circumstances? Why they attract opportunities, love, prosperity, while others, despite all their efforts, are stuck in struggle, in poverty, in chronic dissatisfaction? The difference is not in talents, not in education, not in origin. The difference is who they are energetically, what vibrational frequency they emit, in what way their body and mind are used to functioning. And the most exciting thing is that it can be changed. It's not fixed. It's not fate. It's not karma in the sense of punishment. It's just a pattern that can be rewritten when you understand how. When you think a thought, a neural connection is formed in your brain, weak at first, almost invisible. But if you think that thought over and over again, the connection becomes stronger, a neural pathway is formed, and then a whole network. And this network becomes an automatic program, an unconscious habit, part of your personality, and you don't even realize that you're thinking those thoughts because they're thinking themselves, using you as a tool for its continuation. And the same thing happens with emotions, with beliefs, with behaviors. Everything becomes automatic, and suddenly you no longer live life. Life lives you. But neuroplasticity works both ways. If you can create a neural connection, you can break it. If you can train your brain to think in a certain way, you can retrain it. And it starts with awareness, with observation, with recognizing the moment when an old program starts to run. And instead of automatically following it, you stop, you pause, you choose differently. And every time you do that, the old neural connection weakens, and the new one, the one that leads to the desired future, becomes stronger. Time in the quantum dimension does not flow. It exists as a field of all possibilities at the same time. The past, present, and future coexist, intertwine, interact, and you can target your past from the present, change your future through choices in this moment. Because the only moment that really exists is now. But this now contains everything in itself now. It is a portal to eternity, to infinity, to all that you have ever been and will be. And when you are fully present in this moment, unencumbered by the past, not preoccupied with the future, you experience the freedom that is your natural state, that has always been available, simply forgotten. Imagine that every cell in your body has consciousness, its own form of intelligence, and that these cells listen to your every word, feel your every emotion, react to your every thought. And when you constantly tell yourself that you're sick, old, tired, weak, your cells hear it and begin to act accordingly. They reduce their functioning, turn off self-healing mechanisms, prepare for decline. But when you tell a different story, when you see yourself healthy, young, energetic, strong, your cells respond to this new message. They activate health genes, start regeneration processes, and your body begins to physically transform. There are studies that show that people who meditate regularly have longer telomeres, protective caps at the ends of chromosomes that determine the biological age of cells, that their brains are literally younger than calendar age, that their immune system functions better, that the level of inflammation in the body is lower. That gene expression changes in favor of health and longevity. And it's not just a correlation, it's causal, because meditation changes body chemistry, balances hormones, regulates the nervous system, harmonizes the heart rate, and all of this together creates an internal environment in which cells thrive instead of just surviving. When you observe your thoughts long enough, you start to notice that most of them are not original. They are repetitions of thoughts that you thought yesterday, the day before yesterday, last week, last year. They are records on an old record that spins over and over again. And the most amazing thing is that these thoughts evoke the same emotions that cause the same chemical reactions in the body, that make you act in the same way as you have always acted, and the result is of course the same, and you wonder why your life does not change. But how can it change if you are energetically the same as you have been for years? There's such a thing as the singularity point, the moment when the old version of you dies completely and a new one is born. And it's not a gradual process, it's a quantum leap. It's a transition from one state of being to a completely different one. And in order for that to happen, you have to be willing to die as an old person, let go of everything you've thought about yourself, all the stories that you have narrated, all the limitations that you have accepted as reality, and it is scary. It causes existential fear, because the old you will no longer exist. That identity with which you have lived all your life will dissolve. But on the other side of this death, there is the resurrection. There is a new life. There is a version of you that is free from the past. Your nervous system has been programmed over the years by experience, trauma, conditioning, and it reacts to the present through the prism of the past. It is constantly looking for threats in the environment that resemble old pains. And when it finds something even remotely similar, it triggers a fight-flight numbness response. Even if there is no real threat and you live in a state of constant vigilance, constant tension, your body is ready to attack, which never comes, and this chronic. Activation of the stress response depletes your immune system, disrupts hormonal balance, destroys tissues, creates inflammation, which is the basis of all chronic diseases. But when you meditate, when you consciously slow down your breathing, relax your muscles, direct your attention inward, you send a security message to your nervous system. You tell it that there is no threat, that you can rest, recover, rebuild, and the parasympathetic nervous system is activated. The body enters recovery mode. The cells receive a signal that you can spend energy not on survival, but on prosperity, on growth, on regeneration, and real healing miracles occur, which medicine calls spontaneous remissions, although there is nothing spontaneous in them. They are the result of a change in the internal state, a change in energy, a change in the signal that the body receives from the mind. The quantum field doesn't react to your words, not to your desires, not to what you think you want. It responds to your energy signature, to who you are vibrationally. And if you say you want health but feel sick, if you say you want wealth but feel lacking, if you say you want love but feeling lonely, the field reads not your words but your energy and reflects back what you radiate. So people get stuck in loops where they pray for change, but keep creating the same thing because their energy hasn't changed. True transformation begins when you learn to feel the emotions of your future before it comes. When you train your body to feel gratitude, joy, love, admiration for no reason, without external stimulus. Because if you can generate these feelings within yourself, regardless of the circumstances. You become a creator and not a victim. You stop waiting for the world to change, to make you feel different. Instead, you change yourself, and the world begins to reflect this change. There's a state of consciousness called flow or zone, when time seems to stop, when you're completely absorbed in what you're doing, when there is no feeling of separation between you and your activity, when your inner critic falls silent, when there are no doubts, fears, hesitations. There's only a pure movement of energy through you. And in these moments, magic happens. You create your best work, make the best decisions, live the most fully, because you have gone beyond him, the little self with all its limitations, and have allowed most of yourself, your true nature, to come to the fore. This greater part has always been here. It does not appear and does not disappear. It is a constant presence, an ocean of consciousness from which all the waves of individual experience arise. But we are so identified with the wave, with our individual personality, that we forget about the ocean, and therefore we feel so alone, so isolated, so vulnerable, because the wave has a beginning and an end. It rises and falls. It exists for a brief moment, but the ocean is eternal, boundless, indestructible. And when you remember that you are the ocean playing the role of the wave, everything changes. The fear of death disappears, because who will die? The wave will dissolve back into the ocean, but the ocean cannot die. Your thoughts create electrical pulses. Your emotions create magnetic fields, and together they form an electromagnetic signature, which is your unique energy fingerprint in the quantum field. And that field contains all the possibilities, all the potential realities, and your energy signature acts as a tuning to the radio station. You catch the frequency that you're tuned to, and if you're tuned to the frequency of fear, you get an experience that inspires fear. If you are attuned to the frequency of love, you get an experience that reveals love, and it is not a punishment or a reward. It is just a mechanic of creating reality. Most people do not realize that they are constantly sending signals into the quantum field. They do not understand that their usual thoughts and emotions are orders from the universe, instructions about what experience to bring them. And so they're surprised when life continues to give them what they supposedly do not want. But in fact, they ordered exactly this with their energy, their inner state, its vibrational frequency, which speaks louder than any words. When you really understand this, when this knowledge enters not only your mind, but every cell of your body, there's an awakening. You see that all your life you have been a sleeping creator, that you have been creating by default, unconsciously, reactively, based on old programs. And now you have a choice. You can continue to sleep or wake up. You can continue to be an effect or become a cause. And this choice must be made every moment, because every moment is a point of choice, a portal to a new reality. There's a practice that consists of living in the end, living as if your desired future has already happened, feeling the emotions of achievement before you have achieved, radiating the energy of realization before reality has changed. And it is not just positive thinking. It is not affirmations that you repeat without believing in them. It is a profound restructuring of your being, where every cell of your body believes in the new reality so much that the old reality simply cannot exist anymore, because the energy has changed fundamentally. Imagine that your body is an orchestra. Every organ is a musician. Every system is a section. And when you live in chronic stress, the orchestra plays a cacophony. Every musician plays his melody. There's no harmony. There's no coordination. There's only chaos. And the result is disease, imbalance, dysfunction. But when you meditate, When you bring yourself into a state of coherence, the conductor appears. Your high consciousness, which coordinates all the sections, tunes all the instruments, and suddenly the orchestra plays a symphony, beautiful, harmonious. And this is the sound of health, integrity, well-being. Your heart knows a language that the mind does not understand. It communicates with the quantum field directly, without the mediation of logic, analysis, doubt. And when you descend from head to heart, when you begin to feel instead of thinking, to reflect instead of analyzing, to trust instead of control, the door opens to new dimensions of experience, to synchronicity that the mind would call impossible, to healings that science would call miracles, into relationships that logic would call random. Although accidents do not exist in a universe where everything is interconnected. Quantum entanglement shows us that two particles that once interacted remain connected regardless of the distance between them. The change in state of one instantly affects the other faster than the speed of light. And if this is true for particles, then why not for people, for consciousnesses, for hearts? You are connected to every person you have ever met, to every place you have been, to every moment you have experienced. These connections do not disappear. They exist in the quantum field forever, and you can access them, target them, transform them through conscious work with energy. The past is not fixed. It is a living, changing field of possibilities. And when you change your attitude toward past events, when you look at them from a different perspective, from a place of love instead of fear, understanding instead of condemnation, you literally change the energetic imprint of those events in the field, and that affects your present, because the present is the result of the wrong thing, of what happened, but of how you keep what happened in your mind, in your body, in your energy field. Every time you forgive, you release an enormous amount of energy that was frozen in old grievances. You break the energy cords that link you to the past, to the people who hurt you, to the situations that traumatized you. And that energy comes back to you, available to create something new, to dream better, to move forward. And suddenly you feel light, a clarity that has not been felt for years, a clarity that has long been obscured, a power whose existence you have forgotten. There is a moment in deep meditation when you stop feeling your body, not because it has disappeared, but because the boundaries have dissolved. You cannot tell where you end and the space around you begins. And in this state, you understand something fundamental. What you have always called me was an illusion, a construct that the mind created to navigate the physical world, but that's not what you really are. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're not your body. You're not even your story. You're the space in which it all arises. You're the consciousness that observes this whole dance of forms. When quantum physicists say that matter is energy, they are not speaking metaphorically. They are describing a literal reality. The table on which your coffee is standing seems solid, unchanging. But if you look at it under a microscope of sufficient power, you will see atoms that are 99% empty space. And these tiny particles that make up the atom are not really particles at all. They are waves of possibility. They are vibrations in the quantum field. And the only thing that causes them to behave like solid matter is your observation, your consciousness, which collapses the wave into a particle. This means that reality does not exist independently of you. You are not a passive observer of the objective world. You are an active participant in the creation of this world every moment. And if this is true for the table, then it is true for your body, for your circumstances, and for your life. All these are energy patterns in the field that take shape through your attention, your faith, your energy. And as you change these three elements, the form changes, sometimes gradually, sometimes instantaneously, depending on the strength of your intentions and the depth of your transformation. Your brain does not distinguish between real experiences and imaginary experiences, for both are equally real when you vividly imagine yourself performing an action. The same neural networks are activated as if you were actually performing that action. And if you do it often enough, with enough emotional intensity, your brain literally changes. New synaptic connections are created. Old ones are weakened, and you neurologically become a human being, which has an experience that has not yet been seen in physical reality, but that is already real in your neural architecture. Athletes use this when they mentally rehearse their performances. They see themselves performing a perfect jump, a perfect shot, a perfect game, and their bodies react. The muscles receive signals, coordination improves, confidence increases, and when the time comes for a real performance, the body already knows what to do because it has rehearsed it hundreds of times in the internal space. And for the brain and body, there is no difference between rehearsal and reality. Both create the same neurochemical cascades, the same muscle memories, the same energy signature. The same can be done with any aspect of your life. You can mentally rehearse health, wealth, love, success, not just as a visualization, but as a full-fledged bodily experience, where you feel emotions, see details, hear sounds, smell, taste, tactile sensations of the desired reality. And the more senses you attract, the brighter and more realistic the experience, the more powerful signal you send into the quantum field. The faster and more fully this reality materializes in your outer world. But there's a trickery that many people fall into. They visualize their future from a place of lack. They imagine health because they feel sick. They imagine money because they feel poverty. They imagine love because they feel lonely, and the dominant emotion they emit is not the joy of possibility, but the pain of absence. And the quantum field reads this dominant frequency and continues to give them the experience of absence, because you can't create a solution to the problem from the frequency of the problem. You can't come to health through a focus on the disease. You have to change your energy first. True visualization does not come from a place of desire, but from a place of gratitude for what is already there. Even if physically it has not yet appeared, you live in the end. You feel emotions of fulfillment, gratitude, joy, admiration, and these heightened emotions are a signal to the field that you're already the version of yourself that has it, and the field has no other choice. In addition, to reflect this reality back to you, because this is the law of resonance, the law of correspondence, the law of attraction, call it what you will, the essence is the same. Like attracts, like your sand gland, a small endocrine gland the size of a grain of rice in the center of your brain, is called the third eye in mystical traditions. And this is not just a poetic metaphor. This gland has photoreceptors similar to those in your eyes. It reacts to light. It produces melatonin, serotonin, and under certain conditions, when the brain is in high gamma states, it may also produce other endogenous substances that change consciousness, open the door to other dimensions of perception, other realities that exist outside of ordinary sensory experience. When you meditate and direct the energy up the spine through the chakras as described by the yoga traditions, you're not doing mysticism. You're activating real neural pathways, real energy channels, and when that energy reaches the pineal gland, what is called mystical experience, insight, illumination can occur, where you suddenly know, do not think, do not believe, but know at the level of direct experience. That all is one. That separation is an illusion, that you are connected to all, that exists on the deepest level. These experiences are not hallucinations. They're not an escape from reality. They are an insight into a deeper reality, into the quantum structure of being, where information is not limited by space and time, where you can gain knowledge about events that have not yet occurred in linear time, or that have occurred in the distant past, or that are happening right now thousands of kilometers away from you. Because in the quantum dimension, there is no distance, there is no delay. Everything is interconnected because of what physicists call non-locality. There have been experiments where people in deep meditation predicted future events with statistically significant accuracy. Their bodies responded to stimuli seconds before those stimuli appeared, which is contrary to our understanding of causality, where cause must precede effect. But in the quantum world, the future can affect the past. Observation in the present can change what has already happened. And this is not a theory. This is an experimentally confirmed fact called a delayed selection experiment. If the future can influence the past, then what does it mean for your life? This means that your future developed, healthy, successful, happy self can send information back in time to you now, can guide you through intuition, synchronicity, unexpected possibilities that look like luck, but are actually coordination between your present and future self, between the version of you that is still learning and the version that already knows. And the only thing you need to do, it is to be open to these signals, to trust them, to act on them. Every decision you make creates a fork in the quantum field, giving birth to a new timeline, a new reality. And in a sense, all of these realities exist simultaneously in what physicists call the multiverse. And when you make a different choice, you do not change one timeline. You jump to another where the results of your choices already exist as potential, waiting to collapse into material form due to your constant attention and energetic conformity. It may seem like science fiction, but it's the best explanation we have for the strange results of quantum experiments. And if you apply this model to your life, suddenly a lot of things become clear. Why some people seem to live an enchanted life where everything adds up. It's not luck, it's skill in moving between timelines and choosing a reality that resonates with their highest vision of themselves. And they don't do it consciously in most cases. They've just learned to maintain a certain energy state, a certain frequency that corresponds to the desired reality. You cannot control external circumstances, not directly, but you can control your internal state. And when you change the internal, the external has no choice but to change in conformity, maybe not instantaneously, maybe not in the exact form you expected, but energy always finds its expression in the material world. Always, without exception. It is a law just as reliable like gravity, although its mechanisms of action are more subtle, more complex, more dependent on the quality of your consciousness. When the ancient sages said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," they weren't talking about the afterlife. They were talking about the state of consciousness that is available right now, a state where you're in such harmony with the field, in such coherence with the quantum structure of reality, that everything flows easily, synchronistically, effortlessly, not because you're not doing anything, but because your actions are aligned with greater intelligence, with what some call the divine plan, others call Tao, still others call simply the flow of life. In this state, you're not trying to make things happen, you're letting them unfold. You're holding the vision, you're sustaining the energy, you're taking inspired action, but without being tied to a specific outcome, without despair, without fear that it's not going to work, because you know at the cellular level that the universe has your back, that the field always responds to your energy, that you can't fail, you can only learn, grow, evolve through every experience, whether it looks like success or failure from the limited perspective of the ego. Your body records each experience as a chemical memory, not only in the neurons of the brain, but in the fascia, in the muscles, in the cells of the intestine, which has its own nervous system so complex that it is called the second brain. And when you experience trauma, resentment, fear, these emotions are recorded in the tissues, creating energy blocks, places where energy does not flow freely, where the life force is frozen in time. And every time something in the present reminds you of that old event, the body automatically recreates a chemical reaction, and you feel the same emotion as if it's happening right now, when in reality, it's just a memory recorded in cells. This explains why a rational understanding of a problem is often not enough to solve it. You can know intellectually that your fear is irrational, that your anger is disproportionate, that your sadness belongs to the past. But the body does not listen to the mind. It continues to generate the same chemicals, maintain the same energy state, and you get stuck in a loop where the head knows one thing and the body does another. And in this internal war, it's impossible to achieve true transformation because you're separated, not integrated. The mind pulls in one direction, the body in the other, and the result is stagnation. But there's a way to get out of that loop, and it's to become aware of these subconscious programs, to bring them into the light of consciousness without judging, without trying to change by willpower, just by observing, allowing yourself to feel those old emotions completely, without resistance, without a story about what they mean, just as energy that moves through the body. And when you do that, when you allow yourself to feel completely without a story, something amazing happens. The energy is released, the block dissolves, and the body receives the message that this emotion can be released, that it is no longer necessary for survival. Every cell in your body has receptors for all the neuropeptides that the brain produces. This means that every cell has a tiny consciousness, the ability to feel, react, remember. And when you feel anger for years, your cells become anger addicts. They wait for a daily dose of adrenaline and cortisol. And if suddenly you decide to change, to become calmer, your body will actually start creating situations which cause anger because the cells want their chemical dose to which they are accustomed. And this explains why the change is so difficult, why people return to old patterns even after years of therapy, because the biochemical dependence is real and must be broken at the cellular level. Breaking this addiction requires a period of withdrawal, a period in which you consciously do not give the body what it expects. You do not respond to its demands, and it is uncomfortable. It can even be painful. You feel anxiety, irritation, insomnia, various physical symptoms because the body screams for its dose of habitual chemistry. But if you endure it, if you continue to meditate, breathe, observe without reacting, after a certain time, the receptors on the cells begin to change. They become sensitive to other chemicals, to serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, the chemistry of elation, joy, love, and suddenly your body becomes addicted already to these substances, and now will begin to create situations that bring joy, because that is what it expects. This is what has become its new normal. There's such a thing as a point of no return in the transformation process. A moment when a new version of you becomes stronger than the old one, when the new neural networks are stronger than the old ones, when the new body chemistry dominates the old one. And after that point, going back to the old self requires effort, whereas before the effort was required to change. And that's a beautiful moment because now you know that the transformation is real, that it is not temporary, not superficial, but fundamental, structural, that you have literally become a different person on a biological, neurological, energetic level. The quantum field does not understand the language of words. It understands the language of vibrations, frequencies, energy signatures, and the most powerful vibration that a person can emit is the coherence between the heart and the brain. When the thoughts of the brain and the feelings of the heart are aligned, synchronized, resonate together, creating a single powerful wave that propagates into the field with such clarity, such purity that the universe cannot help but respond, cannot but bring you an answer to your query, the embodiment of your vision, the materialization of your dream. Most people live in incoherence. Their mind wants one thing, their heart feels another, the body makes a third, and these three centers of intelligence not only do not cooperate, they actively conflict with each other, and the result is an energetic confusion, a mixed signal that the field cannot interpret clearly. And so people get mixed results, inconsistent experiences, and they think that life is chaotic, random, unfair, but in reality, life simply reflects their inner incoherence back to them. When you achieve coherence, when all the parts of you are moving in the same direction, with the same intention, with the same energy, you become invincible, not in the sense of aggression or dominance, but in the sense that you are aligned with such a powerful force, with such a fundamental energy of the universe, that the obstacles just move in front of you. The doors open, opportunities appear. People come into your life just then, when needed, with exactly the information, resources, support you need for the next step of your journey. It's not magic in the mystical sense, it's quantum mechanics in action. It's the principle of resonance, where similar frequencies attract. It's the observer effect, where your consciousness collapses into reality. It's non-locality, where information is available instantly regardless of distance. It's entanglement, where you're connected to everything and everyone at the deepest level. And when you understand these principles not as abstract concepts, and as a living reality of your experience, you begin to play with life on a completely different level. Imagine standing on top of a mountain, from where you see the entire landscape for miles around. You see rivers, forests, roads, villages, and from this perspective, you can choose the best path to travel, avoid dangers, find the shortest route. But most people live in a valley where they only see a few meters ahead. They don't know what is around the next turn. They wander blindly, stumble, fall, and think that life is hard, unpredictable. And it is so from their perspective, but if they went higher, if they expanded their consciousness, they would see that there's a map, there's a plan, there's beauty and order in everything that seemed chaotic. Meditation is a tool to rise to the top, to expand your perspective beyond the limited perception of the ego, beyond personal history, beyond the past, and the future into the eternal now, where everything is seen clearly, where the solutions are obvious, where fear disappears because you see that everything unfolds perfectly, that there are no mistakes, only experiences, that there are no victims, only creators, who have temporarily forgotten their power and now remember, and this memory changes everything. Every great mystic, saint, sage, awakened master throughout history has spoken of the same basic insight, expressed in different languages, through different cultural lenses, but the essence is always the same. You are not separate, you are not limited, you are not your body, your thoughts, your ego. You are the eternal consciousness that plays the game of oblivion and memory, which creates all these illusions of limitation, to experience yourself through infinite forms. And when you remember that, when you awaken to that truth, life becomes a game, becomes an art, becomes a dance, not a struggle for survival. Your DNA contains not only your body's genetic code, but also quantum information about all possible versions of you in parallel realities, about all the lives you've lived in other times, other places, other dimensions. And while this may sound like fantasy, there are studies that show that DNA can store and transmit information in ways that are not fully understood by modern science, that it can respond to human consciousness and intentions from a distance, that it emits photons of light, creating what some researchers call a biophotonic field. This field of light around your body, which tradition has always called aura, is not a mystical concept. It is a measurable electromagnetic phenomenon, and its quality, its brightness, its color reflect your inner state, your health, your consciousness, and people intuitively feel this field, even if they don't see it with their physical eyes. They feel your energy, and that's why some people are just nice to be around. They radiate light, warmth, security, while others feel heavy, exhausting, dark. And this is not a judgment of their character. It is a simple energetic reality. When you understand the depth of this truth, when you truly realize that every thought is a creative act, every emotion is a signal into the quantum field, every choice gives birth to a new reality, you will no longer be able to live on autopilot. You will no longer be able to blame circumstances, the past, other people for what is happening in your life, because you will know at a level that is deeper than any intellectual understanding that you are a creator, that you have always been a creator, even when you created unconsciously, reactively, from a place of fear and limitation. And right now, in this moment, while you're reading these words, you have the opportunity to make a choice, an opportunity that has always been here, but that you may not have seen before. You can continue to live as an old version of yourself, repeat the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, create the same experiences, or you can right now, without having to wait until Monday, by the new year, by the time everything is perfect, you can right now become the version of yourself that lives in the desired reality. You can raise your energy, open your heart, expand your consciousness, and take the first step into the unknown, trusting that the quantum field will support you. Because time is not linear, because the past does not determine the future, because you're not a victim of your biology, your history, your genes. You are an infinite consciousness that has a human experience, and that experience can change at any moment when you change who you are energetically. And the most beautiful thing about all of this is that you don't have to wait as long as the outside world changes to make you feel different. You can feel different right now, and when you do, when you become the living embodiment of your dream, even before it materializes, the universe will have no choice but to bring you the physical equivalent of this energy, this frequency, this state of being. And then you'll realize that you've never been separated from your dream, from your healing, from your highest potential, that it's all always been here in the quantum field of possibility, waiting only for you to become an energetic fit for that, for you to collapse that possibility into your reality through the power of your consciousness, your faith, your love for yourself and for life. And in that moment, you are free, truly free, not because your circumstances are perfect, but because you know that you are the creator of those circumstances, and that you can create over and over again, endlessly, in an infinite ocean of quantum possibilities where time does not exist, where everything is possible, where you finally remember who you have always been, an infinite consciousness playing a game of limitation. And now the game has changed because you have woken up, and the awakening is irreversible, and your life will never be the same again. And it is the most beautiful thing that can happen to a human being.